The exam room clock ticked louder than it should have. Monica Green noticed it the moment she sat down, the way the second hand jumped forward, sharp and impatient, like it was counting against her. The paper on the exam table crinkled as she shifted, trying to get comfortable without drawing attention to herself. Monica, black, early 40s, project manager, mother of 2, had waited 3 weeks for this appointment. 3 weeks of fatigue that didn't make sense, of headaches that came and went without warning, of a pressure behind her eyes she couldn't quite explain without sounding dramatic. She'd written everything down, every symptom, every date, every change. The door opened. Dr. Alan Price stepped in, already glancing at his tablet. White, mid-50s, efficient to the point of detachment, his white coat still unbuttoned as if he hadn't fully arrived yet. "Good morning," he said, not looking up. "What brings you in?" Monica straightened. "I've been having—" "Any chest pain?" he interrupted. "No, but—" "Shortness of breath?" "No." "Dizziness?" he asked, already tapping the screen. "Yes," Monica said quickly. "And headaches. And—" Dr. Price nodded once. "Stress?" Monica paused. "I don't think so." He smiled faintly. "Most people don't." He finally looked up, briefly. "Work busy?" "Yes," Monica replied. "But this feels different." Dr. Price hummed, the sound non-committal. "How's your sleep?" "Not great," she admitted. "I wake up tired." Dr. Price glanced at the clock on the wall. "We're a little tight on time today." Monica felt her stomach sink. "I filled out the intake notes," she said carefully. "I wrote everything down." Yes, he replied, scrolling. "I see you put fatigue. That's common." "I also wrote about the pressure in my head," Monica added. "And the vision changes." Dr. Price stopped scrolling. "Vision changes?" he repeated. "Yes," she said. "Blurred sometimes, mostly in the mornings." He frowned slightly but kept his tone light. "Could be migraines." "I've never had migraines," Monica said. "And this started after—" Dr. Price raised a hand gently. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." He stood and picked up a stethoscope. "Vitals look normal. Blood pressure's a little elevated, but nothing alarming." Monica's hands tightened in her lap. "Something feels wrong." Dr. Price smiled again, practiced and reassuring. "A lot of things feel wrong when we're overwhelmed." He turned toward the door. "I'll prescribe something for headaches and recommend rest." Monica felt heat rise in her chest. Not anger yet, but fear. "Did you read the intake notes?" she asked. Dr. Price paused, one hand on the door handle. "I skimmed them." "Can you read them again?" she said quietly. "Please." He hesitated, then sighed softly and returned to the tablet. "All right," he said. "Let's see." He scrolled more slowly this time. Monica watched his eyes move, not over her, but over the screen. Watched his expression change almost imperceptibly. He stopped scrolling. Then he scrolled back up. "Wait," he said. Monica's heart started pounding. He read silently for several seconds. The room felt suddenly very still. "You wrote that the symptoms began after a minor car accident?" he asked. "Yes," Monica said. 2 months ago. I mentioned it at the top." "Doctor." Price looked up at her fully now. "And you noted nausea, ringing in your ears, difficulty concentrating." "Yes," she said. "That's why I'm here." Dr. Price lowered the tablet slightly. The rushed tone was gone. The clock still ticked, but now it felt like it was counting with them, not against her. "I shouldn't have skimmed this," he said quietly. Monica swallowed. "So what does it mean?" Dr. Price pulled up a stool and sat down. "It means," he said carefully, "that this isn't just stress, and we need to reevaluate." Because the intake notes, the ones he almost rushed past, had just changed the entire direction of the appointment. And Monica could feel it. Something was finally being taken seriously. Dr. Price sat back on the stool, the tablet resting in both hands now instead of dangling casually at his side. "I'm sorry," he said, and this time it wasn't reflexive. "I should have read this more carefully from the start." Monica nodded, her pulse still loud in her ears. I didn't know how else to explain it. You explained it, he replied. I just didn't slow down enough to listen. He scrolled again, deliberately now, rereading the intake notes line by line. Monica watched his face change in small ways, the slight tightening around the eyes, the way his jaw set as details stacked on top of each other. Morning headaches, he read aloud. Worse when bending over, blurred vision on waking, ringing in the ears, fatigue not relieved by rest. He looked up. These together matter. Monica let out a breath. That's what I was trying to say. Dr. Price nodded. And the car accident. You said it was minor? Yes. Rear-ended at a stoplight. No airbags. I didn't hit my head, so I didn't think much of it. But you did feel shaken afterward, he said, reading. Neck soreness. Brief confusion. Yes, Monica said. For a day or two. He set the tablet down on the counter and folded his hands. Sometimes symptoms don't show up immediately, especially neurological ones. The word neurological landed heavily. Monica's voice dropped. Is it serious? It could be, he said honestly, or it could be manageable. What matters is that we don't guess. He stood and walked to the computer, typing quickly now, but with focus, not impatience. I want to order imaging, he said. An MRI, possibly a CT as well. Monica blinked. Today? Yes, he said. I'm going to mark this as urgent. Her stomach flipped, not with fear alone, but with validation. I was worried you'd say it was just stress again, she admitted. Dr. Price paused and turned back to her. Stress is real, but it's also a word we reach for too quickly. He hesitated, then added, especially with patients who are used to pushing through discomfort. Monica understood exactly what he meant. I also want to do a neurological exam, he continued. Reflexes, balance, eye tracking. He approached her more gently this time, explaining each step before he did it. When he shined the light into her eyes, he lingered longer than before. Any dizziness right now? He asked. A little, Monica said. Mostly when I sit up fast. He nodded, noting it down. After the exam, he sat again, closer now, not rushing toward the door. I can't diagnose you yet, he said, but I can say this. I don't think we're dealing with migraines alone. Monica clasped her hands together. So I wasn't imagining it. No, Dr. Price said firmly. You weren't. He looked at the clock again, but this time, instead of standing up, he turned it slightly away from her. We'll take the time we need, he said. And for the first time since she'd walked into the room, Monica felt the pressure in her chest ease, not because she had answers yet, but because the question itself had finally been taken seriously. The intake notes hadn't just added context, they had interrupted a rushed conclusion and forced the truth to surface before it was missed again. The MRI suite was colder than the exam room. Monica lay still on the narrow table, hands folded over her stomach, the machine humming and thudding around her in rhythmic bursts. Each sound felt louder than it probably was, amplified by the quiet fear she'd been carrying for weeks without naming it. She stared at the small mirror above her eyes and focused on breathing. You're doing the right thing, she told herself. An hour later, she was back in the exam room, wearing her clothes again, the paper gown folded neatly on the chair like she hadn't needed it at all. Dr. Price hadn't returned yet. Time stretched. Finally, the door opened, but this time he wasn't alone. A nurse followed him in, then quietly stepped back out, closing the door behind her. Doctor. Price's expression was serious, but not panicked. Focused. Monica, he said, sitting down immediately. Thank you for being patient. Her heart kicked hard against her ribs. You found something. He didn't dodge it. Yes, she swallowed. What kind of something? He turned the monitor slightly so she could see the image. Grayscale, unfamiliar shapes, a map of her own head she'd never expected to study so closely. There's increased pressure, he said carefully, and signs consistent with post-traumatic intracranial hypertension. The words sounded heavy, clinical, distant. "What does that mean?" Monica asked. "It means that after the accident, even though it seemed minor, something disrupted the balance of fluid pressure in your skull," he explained. "Over time, that pressure can cause headaches, vision changes, fatigue, exactly what you described." Monica felt tears sting her eyes, not from fear alone, but from the release of being right. "I kept thinking I was just tired," she whispered. Dr. Price shook his head. "You weren't wrong. And if we'd continued treating this as stress or migraines, we might have missed the window to address it properly." "What happens now?" she asked. "I'm referring you to neurology today," he said. "We'll start medication to reduce the pressure, and you'll need close monitoring." "Is it dangerous?" she asked. "It can be if untreated," he said honestly, "but we caught it in time." Monica closed her eyes for a moment. In time. That phrase echoed. Dr. Price leaned forward slightly. "I want to be clear about something," he said. "If you hadn't insisted we revisit the intake notes, I might not have ordered imaging today." Monica opened her eyes. So you advocated for yourself," he finished. And it mattered. Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, but full. Dr. Price continued, quieter now. "I see a lot of patients, and the pressure to move fast is real, but speed can't come at the cost of listening." Monica nodded. "I almost didn't say anything." "I'm glad you did," he said. As he left to make the referrals, Monica sat alone again, staring at the scan on the screen. It no longer felt abstract. It felt like proof that her body had been speaking the whole time, proof that writing things down hadn't been pointless, proof that being dismissed, even briefly, could have had consequences. When the nurse returned with paperwork, Monica felt different, still scared, still uncertain, but no longer invisible. The intake notes hadn't just changed the diagnosis, they had changed the pace, forcing the appointment to slow down long enough for the truth to be seen. The follow-up appointments filled Monica's calendar quickly. Neurology, ophthalmology, a specialist she'd never heard of before, but was suddenly grateful existed. Each visit came with more tests, more careful questions, and, most importantly, more listening. At the neurology clinic, the doctor didn't rush. She sat with Monica, intake notes open on the screen, reading them out loud piece by piece. "You described this perfectly," she said. "Most people don't." Monica almost laughed at that. The treatment plans started slowly. Medication to reduce the pressure, strict instructions about rest, limits on screen time, regular check-ins. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't instant. But within a week, the headaches softened. Within 2, the mornings stopped feeling like she was waking underwater. One evening, sitting at her kitchen table with a cup of tea, Monica realized something had changed. She wasn't bracing herself anymore. Not for the pain, not for the doubt, not for the fear that someone would tell her, again, that it was all in her head. A message appeared in her patient portal. From Dr. Alan Price. "I've been reviewing my schedule and our visit again. I want to thank you for insisting we slow down. Your case prompted a reminder I shared with our team about the importance of fully reviewing intake notes before appointments." It mattered. Monica stared at the screen for a long moment. She hadn't expected that. She typed a brief reply. "Thank you for listening." That was enough. Weeks later, at a routine check-in, Dr. Price greeted her differently. He sat down before she did, asked how she was really feeling, didn't glance at the clock once. "I changed how I do first visits," he said casually. "I start with the intake notes now, every time." Monica smiled. "Good." As she walked out of the clinic that day, the sun felt brighter, not because everything was perfect, but because it was clear. Clear that her instincts had been right. Clear that preparation wasn't paranoia. Clear that speaking up, once, at the right moment, could change more than just one appointment. That night, Monica pulled the original intake notes from her email drafts, the same document she'd almost apologized for being too detailed. She saved it to a folder labeled Health, Trust Yourself, because her body had tried to tell the story. because the notes had preserved it when the room moved too fast, because rushing past details nearly cost something that couldn't be replaced. The diagnosis didn't change because of luck. It changed because the truth had been written down. And finally, someone took the time to read it.